Hello, it's me and welcome to another jet-lagged edition of the e-NV200 adventures. Yeah, my brain's not working particularly well today. I'm sure Mrs. C would say it never works particularly well. But with the journey back from the US, jet lag, very long journey back from Gatwick to Hull. Yes, brain not really working properly. Just some grumpy teenager there having to give way to me, seeing as I couldn't get through past those parked cars. Anyway, what I'm getting to, what this brief, well, it'll never be brief, I'll never make a brief video, unfortunately. I will ramble and fill half an hour fairly quickly. Well, it seems like it's quickly. What I'm getting to is, why am I making this video? Well, I'm making this video because of our journey back from Gatwick to Hull. Going was pretty difficult. In a usual petrol diesel car, Hull to Gatwick via the horrible A1 is generally the quickest way of getting there. We could go down the M1 motorway. You would think that would be the quickest route, but it never is. It's always the A1. And if you was in a normal car where you're not having to stop, you could probably do the journey with good traffic, probably 4.5 hours. So, you know, it's a relatively long journey. We knew, well, actually, when we booked the flights, I won't get into that whole thing, but we ended up with a compensation check from our once-in-a-lifetime holiday last year, and we ended up with €3,600 because the flight was delayed 24 hours. So this year, you know, we would have had a normal holiday, not a greatly expensive holiday, but this year, because of that compensation check, we chose to book flights from Gatwick to JFK. When we booked them, we had a diesel van, and even then it was kind of, should we do this? But they were very cheap flights, so we decided to go ahead and book the flights to New York. And in the interim time that passed, we ended up buying the e-NV200, and we knew straight away that that would create a more difficult and more challenging journey, knowing that we'd have to stop to multiple rapid charge the van. Going down there, basically from start to finish, from Hull to Gatwick, I think it took us about 7.5 hours. Of course, we set off from home with 100% charge, and we did 2 rapids. I'm going to stop very soon because obviously it's a little safer to waffle and not be driving. So yeah, I'm going to stop soon. But so yeah, 7.5 hours is what it took us. Set off on 100% from home, and we charged twice. The first rapid charge that we did, we actually sat for an hour, basically because my wife had to wait a long time in the Burger King there, literally probably the better part of half an hour to get the food. It was very busy that day. And also because obviously we had time to eat the food. We had a bit of a picnic sat on the grass near the charger there, and it finished the 44 minutes or whatever Ecotricity give us, and then I put it on basically to get us to an hour's worth of charging, and I think we did. I think we got up to about 85%, which was all good. Not wasted any time unnecessarily because of the charging. We just had to get the food and eat the food, and then we plodded on to the next charge, whereby we did the usual sort of 40+ minutes, and that was enough to get us to Gatwick. So we did two rapid charges. I think it's about 258 miles, and yeah, 7.5 hours. So you've probably combined, you've got the thick end of 2 hours worth of charging. Just going to park in this bay, not that it matters really. No one parked up here, I'm not taking up anybody's space. So yeah, we arrived fairly late at Gatwick, and we were certainly ready to have a sleep, have a break, and get ready for the flight the following day. So coming back, not particularly, not a great flight. I didn't sleep at all. The wife didn't sleep. Seating was kind of messed up, even though we'd paid for seating, which I won't get into. But what I'm going to say is that, yeah, it was a difficult flight back through the night. No sleep. Our son was sick, which oh boy, which created problems. You know, sick on a plane in a confined area. It's never good. But anyway, so we got back. Very, very eager to get back to Hull, get back home. And we knew that we would have a relatively difficult journey getting back. The car had been left at 15% at valet parking. They'd moved the car to some external car park. That had dropped us down to 13%, and I kept an eye on it over the 3 weeks whilst we was away, and it pretty much stayed at that 13%. When we got back to the car, it dropped 1% down to 12%, and yeah, we obviously needed a charge, so we drove to Tesco in Crawley, which, you know, it's not very far away, 10 minutes or something, and they have a rapid charger down there, a Polar rapid charger, 24p a kilowatt. Very happy to get on that. No one else was waiting for the thing, and we sat. My wife popped into Tesco, bought us all something for our breakfast stroke dinner, because obviously the time difference, and we sat there very leisurely, charged for an hour or so, I think, and got up to 80%. At that point, I didn't pay much attention to the charge rate, didn't pay much attention to the battery temperature. But anyway, so we set off. We did 1.5 hours worth of driving at relatively normal motorway speeds where we could. A lot of roadworks right across the, well, I don't think any, I mean, if you're on the M25, you've got relatively slow moving traffic at times. And then coupled with roadworks and whatever else, the Dartford Tunnel and so on. Anyway, we come to do our second rapid charge of the day, and basically when we got there, of the two bays that were there, excuse me, just getting over my breakfast muffin, but of the two charging bays that were there, both were occupied by, coincidentally, two BMW i3s. One, well, in effect, neither were charging, because one of the pumps, the eco-tricity pumps, was totally off, nothing on the screen, just dead. The other one did have something on the screen, it wasn't charging, it was plugged in, so we was a little bit miffed, shall we say, because we were desperate for a charge at that point. I think we were down to 8%, 9%, and needing a charge to get us home. I spoke to, well, we sat there for at least, I parked across the front of these two i3s, and we sat there for, I don't know, 12 minutes, very, very sort of conservatively, 12 minutes to, oh no, it's 15 minutes, waiting for somebody to come back and move their car. Then one of these guys turns up, he's the one that's not charging at all, the pump is dead, so, you know, fair play to him. Perhaps he shouldn't have parked there, but nevertheless, he's not getting in our way, he's not taking anybody else's charging spot because the thing is not working. Basically, he went on to tell me that the guy next door to him in the other i3 wasn't charging because apparently he'd plugged in, it ran for a minute or something, then it turned itself off. He was, I don't know if it's the CCS connection, I don't know what BMW i3s have, no interest, no need to know that. But anyway, so he was plugged in, and what I did was basically I pulled alongside of his car and I plugged in the CHAdeMO, and we got the charge started. But by this point we've probably now been there 15 to 20 minutes, very tired from the flight, not slept for a long time, not had a shower for a long time, and just desperate to get home. Eventually this other chap from the plugged in but not charging BMW turns up, and Initially, he didn't look particularly happy with me, but I explained that I had not touched his plug, it was left in, and on the screen it wasn't charging. And then he kind of sort of warmed to the conversation. What we did get to, though, that his BMW i3 had the petrol engine, range extender, whatever way you want to call it. So again, I'm not an expert on the i3, but to some degree, I don't know, is it an unnecessary charge? Who knows? And particularly when he knew the thing wasn't charging and he just left the thing plugged in and walked off to go get a coffee for however long. So yeah, eventually we did get a charge on there, but whilst we're charging, this lady turns up in a Leaf, and she says to me, I wouldn't usually do this, I wouldn't usually ask this, but could you perhaps unplug and let me have a go on there, please? And the reason she gave was that she was picking up a friend from the airport, and that she was going to be late. Well, unfortunately, I am fairly benevolent where and ever and whenever I can be, but on this occasion I chose to be semi-selfish and say, I'm very sorry, we've travelled a long way, we've waited a long time for this charge, and I'm going to get whatever charge I can. At this point, I wasn't really aware that there was an issue with the charging. And on an old journey, the sad person I am, I usually take a photograph of the electricity pump display, and I work out what charge rate we're getting. On this occasion, I couldn't frankly be bothered. I just wanted to get the car charged, get the van charged, and get us home. But what I did notice, I mean, this Leaf lady packed at the side of us, and she had her head in her hands, and she was flailing her hands about, and she was on the phone, and obviously very unhappy that I'd not let her have a go on the pump. And this subsequently went on by, she was chatting to a couple of chaps, not in a electric car, and telling them what a nasty chap I was in not letting her having a go on the pump. Anyway, with all this going on next door to us, I pretty much thought, you know, whatever, have a go on the pump, I'll unplug, we're nowhere near where we need to be. And from memory, we got to something like 50%. So it'd taken a long time to get us from that 9% to 50%. We didn't do anywhere near the full 40 minutes, but I think we probably did 30 plus minutes, and we got very little charge into the car. So it was on free vend, was this pump. So I thought, well, okay, sometimes when they're on free vend, perhaps they don't work at the full, you know, the maximum charge rate. So we then tooled on to the next place. It was a 30-minute drive to the next Ecotricity, and we get there, and it's basically, there is a car in every spot. Three cars. There's a Leaf guy, an iGolf, and a Mitsubishi, whatever they are, the plug-in hybrid. And we are now still desperately needing a charge. And I'm not going to go into every minute of this, but basically the Mitsubishi man, or I believe the son of the Mitsubishi lady driver, I didn't unplug it. A really nice chap from Norfolk region, in his 70s, really nice, friendly chap. He said, look, the Mitsubishi is not charging. He said, I've been keeping an eye on it. It's been sat there for forever, and they've only got a tiny battery in these things. It's finished charging ages ago. He said, you know, if you pull up at the side there, he said, you might be able just to pull your Chanamo cable across and get a charge on there. So he unplugged the Mitsubishi. And these people must have been watching from somewhere within, you know, walking distance, because within seconds this big chap came across, face like thunder, saying, hey, have you unplugged my car? He didn't speak like that because he wasn't from the north. He had a southern accent, but I won't offend anybody by doing my southern accent. And this old chap sort of, you know, taking him back a little bit, because it looked like he was going to punch someone. And he said, no, he said, your car had finished charging. This chap in, he's desperate for a charge, and we've unplugged it so we can use the Chanamo. And he did sort of back down, but he was still not particularly friendly. And I went on to speak to presumably his mother, who was driving the car, and she started telling me all about how we should have more pumps, and we wouldn't have this problem if there was more pumps. But frankly, we wouldn't have had the problem if she'd have just not bothered parking there. Not being offensive to anybody driving a plug-in hybrid, but it you know, unnecessary. When you are deaf, there should be some form of etiquette when it comes to this, and even to the point where I'm not saying we ban hybrids from using these pumps, but there's got to be a level of whereby who is more justified in using those pumps. Is it somebody who's got a petrol engine that can in effect power the battery there, or is it somebody that just need, like ourselves, like Leaf drivers, like anybody else who's got a fully electric car? Surely we've got to have some priority here. So anyway, eventually we get on this thing, and that's at the point when I realise that it's not that previous pump that was on free vend at the previous place. It is all pumps. We are now, excuse me again, I apologise, indigestion. We are now receiving a very slow rate of charge. And at the time I calculated it just in my head, ballpark figures, and it looked, just looking at the app and how many kilowatts per minute we'd actually consumed. And it seemed from my schoolboy maths that we were taking in about 20 kilowatt hours, which is obviously far less than what we've had in the past, when we've had about 33, 35, 36, 37. And we sat there, and it just seemed to go on forever. Battery temperature was very hot, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. And the one thing that I never noticed is the battery cooling fan coming on. Now, whenever we've been driving, and you know, we've done relatively long drives, but this was a big drive. But in the past, when we've done we've had a relatively high battery temperature, and we plug in, we hear that fan kick in. It's not something that you can ignore easily. It's not something that you can perhaps miss. And yes, tiredness comes into this, jet lag comes into this, an overwhelming desire to get home comes into this, and perhaps maybe it was running and I just didn't hear it. But I find that hard to believe. So what I'm saying is that on that long journey, I didn't once hear the cooling fan coming on. So anyway, we get what we can out of that pump there, and from memory, I believe we only got something like 60+%, and that was a push. It was taking forever, but we took the full 40. I don't know, what is it? 43 minutes or something? It's meant to be 40. I'm not sure. 45, 47. Anyway, so then we plod on to the next place, and my wife is looking for where we pass one that's relatively close to where we've just come from. But the next one now is way too far. We're not going to make it on the charge that we've got. This is ecotricity pumps that we've made a list of. Anyway, the wife has a bit of a Google and finds there's a Shell garage. I'll put all this at the bottom because I'm still tired and I'm not prepared for this. But I want to record this. I want to get something down on YouTube. I want to get something there in place so that as my memory, my fairly fuzzy memories, they will become more and more fuzzy as time goes on. So I want to get something on YouTube now whilst I still can remember kind of what happened. So anyway, she finds this Shell garage, and there's a Genie pump there, and we had lots of problems there. It must have taken 20+ minutes to register, and then this particular pump, even though, well, it was a new pump, but it wasn't showing up on their app, it wasn't showing up on the maps on the desktop version of the website. So we had to ring them, and a lot of messing around. They eventually added it to their system, and we got a charge on that, and we were drawing in about 18 kilowatt hours. So we sat there from start to finish. We were there about an hour and 15, and probably, I don't know, the thick end of an hour charging. and we got up to 80%. Now at this point we still had 2.5 hours, sorry, we had 107 miles from there back to home, and we had 80%. The GOM was showing exactly 107 miles, so we knew, just like our Hull to Blackpool, that we would have to work pretty hard to get this van back to our house from that charge point. No other place from there to Hull, nowhere else. No, pretty much. I'm sure somewhere in a village or a town there would have been a 7 kilowatt, but in terms of rapid chargers, nothing from there to home. So I had to make it work, and that involved driving very, very slowly, 50 miles an hour in national speed limits, putting it into neutral on where we would coast downhill, and then trying to regen a little, but then back into neutral as and when, you know, the ups and downs of the terrain came. And given points on the GOM, we were reading less than the mileage to our house. But bit by bit, working very hard, no air conditioning on, no heat on, and there was, I mean, it was 11 degrees, 10 degrees during the journey, towards the end of the journey, so it was getting really chilly in the car. The kids, we were all dressed for summer in shorts and t-shirts, you know, not really thinking about what the weather was going to be like, or indeed that we'd have a problem with the car and not be able to use the heat. So yeah, so basically 2.5 hours it took us from there. It should have taken, at normal speeds, it should have taken 2 hours, but because of the very, very slow speeds we were doing, it took us 2.5 hours. We got back to Hull at 10:10 in the evening. I was struggling for at least the last 2 hours of that journey, trying to stay awake, which it is what it is. You could say, well, that's just dangerous, you shouldn't have been driving, but I had no choice. I had to get us, the family, back home, and that's what I did, and we did make it. We made it back home. I think we ended up with something about 4% on the battery when we arrived, and I did put the heat on for the last 10 minutes of the journey, just to warm the kids up, and not a pleasant journey at all. So today, what we're doing today, I'm now at the 23-minute mark on there. I've waffled quite a lot. What have we learned from this? We've learned that compared to in the past, the longest journey we've done is from Hull to the west coast of the UK, and, you know, probably looking at, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is, 120 miles, is it? No, of course it's not. What am I talking about? We did Hull to Blackpool and we did 148 miles, so we were looking at about 140 miles without bits, you know, journeys to different pumps that work or different chargers that work. So yeah, that in itself to us is the longest journey, and generally on those sort of journeys we've done 1 or 2 rapid charges, never noticed any problem with speed or charge rate, and it's worked out fine. But this, doing 260 miles from Hull to Gatwick, or Gatwick to Hull, it did certainly test the car, and we did have a very hot battery, and that did restrict the charging rate. So what have we learned? Well, we've learned that this car is not particularly good at long journeys like this. It took us, the plane landed at 11 AM. We arrived at Tesco Crawley at 12:20 and put it onto charge. So, and it was a 10-minute journey from Gatwick to Tesco. So from, call it 20:12. From that point to getting home was 10:10 in the evening. It's way too long, way too long. If you factor in that a normal car should be able to get from Tesco Crawley to Hull 4.5 hours, possibly 5 hours with roadworks, it's a long journey time. So I have had a little bit of a worry about this, thinking, do we have a problem? Is the cooling fan, has it packed up? And I took a small bit of video when I got into the car. Been sat, not been charging, and we were, it looks like, if you look at it, it's just one segment below what in effect is the 50% mark. and that's where it is right now. And we just sat here. It's 15 degrees outside, so it's relatively cool, but I've never seen that battery temperature drop below there. When I've watched over the last 18 months, 2 years, I have one of these silly memories that recall these things. I have seen on the 24 kilowatt version of this fan, I've seen people's battery temperature much lower than that. So I thought, well, is there some method of heating? Is the van keeping that temperature there deliberately? Or is that really genuinely the lowest that this battery temperature goes? Because when you're starting at that point, you don't have a long way to go before you're in the higher temperatures, getting towards where it says hot, and you get there very quickly. So today we are going out on a relatively medium length journey. Going to be driving for possibly 50 minutes across the Humber Bridge, and we're going to then come back from there. And on the way back, there's a rapid charger about 14 miles from Hull, and we will be passing it. We're going a little bit out of our way, but I want to get this fan onto that rapid charger and see what the charge rate is. Because if that charge rate at that relatively short journey time, if that rapid charger doesn't charge in the 30s, 30 kilowatt plus, 33, 34, 37, whatever, and it's charging at 20 something, then we've got a problem. But it's too early to say whether we do have a problem. It's too early to say whether this is some variant of the Leaf 2018 Rapidgate problem. But certainly the slow battery charging rate did cause us issues. And today I want to find out. I want to try and just try and basically see if the van has gone back to normal. Are we back where we were, you know, with all these other journeys? Because if we are, frankly, I can live with that. Because spending all day driving is something that voluntarily I'm never going to do again. You know, so if we say that our maximum journey, you know, if we can do 150 miles in a day, 1 or 2 rapids, I'm happy with that. Because flying to North America is a one-off. I know we got the compensation check and it became a bit of a free trip for us, but no, this isn't going to be we're not planning to do crazy long journeys like this. So I'll call it a day there. I have waffled, unfortunately, now for 28 minutes. We will cut now to the rapid charger, hopefully, if we get there, and my day plans out as we're intending it to do. So now, let's get to that rapid charger. The battery percentage, the battery temperature right now, and I'll show you the picture. I'll just put it in right now. That's where we are now at 10:40 something AM. Cut now to the rapid charger. Let's see how we get on. Anyway, here we are now at the rapid charger after a good feed of fish and chips across it's Fishbone, don't worry, on the south bank. It's just phlegm, I apologise. We're down to 51% from the 100 that we started on. The battery percentage, or the battery temperature should we say, has gone up by 1 notch. So now exactly on the 50% mark, and I'm now at the last eco-tricity pump before you get to the suburbs of Hull, and there's a Kia Soul in front of me on charge, and I think the reason for that is possibly making use of the free vend that is here at the minute. So we are once these guys are finished, we will hook up and see what kind of rate we draw off this pump. All an experiment to see whether the day before last was a freak occurrence because of the distances involved, but we'll see very soon. Well, it'll be very soon for you. We could be here for 45 minutes, we don't really know, but we'll cut right to all the details very soon.
So you're not just gonna... How do you get up there?
Just waiting for all the German bikers to vacate on their Harley Davidsons, making lots of noise. Anyway, let's go check, see if this pump is on free vend. Old man noise, getting out of car. Can't help it nowadays. Off we go now. Just waiting for those vital statistics. See what those numbers are. Right, so we've got 362 by 106. So straight away we can see that's 36,000 watts, or 36 kilowatts-ish, thereabouts. So excellent, we're taking a good charge. Good to see. Also good to see this lemon tea leaf. He told me all about these. Look out for them. That's when we know we're on free vend. Right, looking good. Right, so we're now charging at what in effect, now I've actually done it on the calculator and not my brain, because my brain's not overly good at anything really. 39,000, sorry, yeah, I can stick with that. 39,000 watts, or 39 kilowatts thereabouts. We're drawing at the minute, so that's good to see. After the weekend, after the crazy drive back from Gatwick, I was starting to think that we might have damaged the battery somehow. I'm sure we could never have damaged the battery, but it was just one of these things that plays on your mind when you've spent a lot of money on a car and it's not performing as it should. But yes, we are drawing at a good rate of charge right now, so that's good to see. Obviously we've got to put this trip to Gatwick, the trip from Hull to Gatwick. Now the other way around, you bow brain, from Gatwick to Hull. Oh, in fairness, the other trip was pretty bad as well. But coming back, Gatwick to Hull took a long time. Never want to do that again. Fingers crossed we won't have to get ourselves in a situation like that. So anyway, that's it for now. Been a very dull, boring video. No humour or comedy in this one. Very dull, just explaining the awful trip we had from Gatwick to Hull. But here we are, experiment done now. Charging at almost 39 kilowatts, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Battery temperature not looking so bad, but we've only sort of thrashed it at motorway speeds, 77 indicated, for I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or something. So not a real test, but at least we're taking a fair charge. And of course it will be interesting to see on coming trips whether or not high battery temperature does result again in a reduced charging rate. But for now, that's it. We have got some fun stuff coming up, not dull and boring like this one, over the next few months up until Christmas. We did a video across in Canada, obviously not EV related, but more of an adventure type of video. For those who are into Murdoch mysteries, trying to find locations for the filming locations for that show there. Obviously not of an interest to most of you guys, but nevertheless we'll get that edited up and get it online as soon as we can, and then thereafter, like I say, a few fun projects in the brain which will no doubt develop into a real video real soon. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much to all the brand new subscribers. Really a lot of subscribers come about in the last fortnight, so thank you very much if you've subscribed. Very much appreciated. Almost knocking at the doors now of 200 subscribers, which in the space of a couple of months I think is it's great. Thank you very much. It is really appreciated, and all the positive comments that we get. The occasional numpty with a negative comment, but for the most part, lots of positive comments and lots of kind words. So all of you have taken the time to give us kind words on Twitter or YouTube. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much. Anyway, thanks for watching this very dull and boring video. If you managed to stick with it right to the end, full admiration of you guys for watching right to the end. But if you've skipped through, I'd fully understand that, because it has been quite dull. But thanks for watching. More adventures coming soon on e-NV200 Adventures. See you soon. Bye for now.